3. If I could ask you to stand for the council affirmation and karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā tara ki tai, ehi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mo te ora. Let us affirm that we as councillors will work together to serve the citizens of Selwyn District, to always use our gifts of understanding, courage, common sense, wisdom and integrity in our discussions, dealings and decisions so that we may solve problems effectively. May we always recognise each other's values and opinions, be fair-minded and ready to listen to each other's point of view. In our dealings with each other, let us always be open to the truth of others and ready to seek agreement, slow to take offence and always prepared to forgive. May we always work to enhance the well-being of Selwyn District and its communities. We will. Thank you. Apologies for this meeting, Councillor Grant Miller. I'll move that we receive that apology as a seconder. Thanks, Bob. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. I've had no identification of any extraordinary business for today's meeting, so the agenda is as it is in front of us. Any conflicts of interest people need to raise that aren't already on the register? None. And there's no public forum for today as well. Before we kick into the meeting itself, today will look and feel a little bit different. There were mihi whakatau as a part of today's council meeting to welcome Megan Mackay to join us as mana whenua representative on our council, and really proud day for us as a community and as a district, and working with Ngāi Te Reo Hiki ki Taumotu, and really looking forward to the expertise and knowledge that Megan brings and the growing of the relationship there. So when we get to, we'll deal with the first two papers on our agenda, the appointment of mana whenua representatives, including the look at the terms of reference, and then the appointment of Megan Mackay. The first two papers will then break and I have the mihi whakatau. That'll be after that. There'll be a cup of tea and we'll break for afternoon 10 and come back and conclude the rest of the council business at the end. Are there any questions on the process for today? No. So the confirmation of minutes from the 13th of September have been shared. Have a mover and seconder for those, been true and accurate. Thank you, Phil and Sophie. Is there any comments or discussion on those minutes? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. And then we move on to our first paper. It's on page 13 of the agenda, or tab 5 for councillors. It's appointment of mana whenua representatives to the full council and council committees. Sharon.
Thank you, Sam. I'm delighted to bring this paper forward to council today, and thank you to Pamiria and Sean for support in pulling this together. The recommendations are pretty self-explanatory in terms of the appointment of 2 mana whenua representatives to full council with speaking but not voting rights. And I will take the paper as read.
Great. Are there any questions or comments people have? Malcolm, you're happy to move? Is there a seconder? Phil, thank you. Any discussion on this paper? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. And the second paper is the appointment of Megan Mackay to full council and council committees.
Thank you, Sam. And again, delighted to bring this paper forward. And again, once again, thank you to Pamiria and to Sean. And the paper is self-explanatory. The recommendations are, and that is the appointment of Megan Mackay as a mana whenua representative at full council meetings with speaking but not voting rights, and the appointment of Megan Mackay to committees of council with speaking and voting rights. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. I'm really excited that this paper is coming before us now. It's been a really interesting journey and growth and partnership and relationship with Ngāi Te Reo Hiki ki Taumotu, and the work that councillors and staff have put in to that. I really want to thank Sharon for your leadership, and Pamiria for the changes that we are going through, and the setup of Te Paumata Aho, and having a team of people helping us get better in this space. Having Ngāi Tahu as rangatiratanga across Te Takiwā and Ngāi Te Rū Hiki ki Taumotu mana whenua across Selwyn, it's really important that that voice is at this table and that we hear input about what partnership looks like, about what outcomes for communities look like, and understanding not only what our future is, but thinking about what our history has been in this place as well. Having Megan here on all of our committees means that the discussions have information at the front end rather than at the back end of conversations, and that we can be informed as we converse with our community about the breadth of issues before we step into spaces where we in the past might not have had that expertise at the front end. Megan brings with her a wealth of knowledge and experience. She has been in many governance spaces before and understands the role of governance. She also has a legal background, and really looking forward to her bringing her mind and her whakapapa into the space. And for those that are chairs on the committees, looking forward to her involvement in your committees over the coming years. It's also been, I think, a good opportunity to use the Better Off funding that the government has given to us to think about, which was a conversation about water and about partnership with mana whenua, and we're using that in a way that enhances the governance experiences and decision making of our council to fund that over the next 2 years. Yeah, Sharon, do you want to say anything else, or Pamiria, do you want to?
No, thank you, Sam.
Any councillors have any things I'd like to say, or questions they have of this paper? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Yes, we had Phil and Malcolm, I think, moved and seconded. Yes, Therese? Yes. Declare it carried. Great. So we will now break from our seats. The councillors will join me down the front of the room here. The men will sit in the front row and the females behind, and we'll welcome Taumotu into the room.
Somebody's got to sit down. Yeah. Yeah. Well. What are you doing back there?
That's being left down. No, I'm not standing at the moment. I can do it. Put down. That's not right.
It's on.
Sucks being back up to Mr. No.
I don't have a block on this. Sleep one night, that's all. So you- Halfway? It's
Hei mauri ora. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I waho, tuia I roto. Tuia te here tangata, korongo te po, karongo te ao, tihei mauri ora. Kana mate o te wā, haere, haere atu rā. Me huria hou, kia rātou, rātou kia rātou, tātou kia tātou. Tēnā tātou, kua tau, mai te tēnei rāhei. E mihi ana ki te kaupapa o te rā. Te reo o Taumotu o mana whenua, kia koe te rangatira Megan, nau mai noho mai ke wainga I a mātou. Te herenga o tātou whare, o tātou whānau, o tātou kōrero, o tātou wāwata. Ko te mea nui, ko te tahi, ko te mahi tahi, he honore nui tēnei, nō reira me mutu I konei. Welcome, and with the spirits that are above and around and below and within us, it's so exciting to welcome Ngāi Te Rua Hiki Hiki ki Taumotu to be a part of governance and decision making and information sharing for our community through our council. And today, Megan, we welcome you to sit with us at this table. We acknowledge those that have passed away and gone before us. And we think about our future in this space and the conversations that will be had and the decisions that will be made for Selwyn District, Wai Kirikiri, and the whānau that live here now and our mokopuna that will live in this space beyond our time. Mihi ana kia koe Megan, ko tēnei wā, kia ko tahi ai, Kia tātou o te konihera. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko wai maki i te raki, ko rakaya i te roka e, te mai hora, e hora ke ne, i kina te oraka, o ka iwi e, ma aera, e turi ma e, ma ku, ma tātou e.
Ko te kōpū uri uri, te puna heke ngā tangata, e rere mai, ia waiare ki o āio, ia hotu māmoi, ia he moki te rangi. Ka hora te aitanga o ngā hākui, tū mai rā waitaha, tū mai rā kāti māmoi, tū mai rā ngai tahu whānui e, ati hei mauri ora. Me whakatōpū, i konei ngā mate o te wā. Ia mākūkū. Ia hupe, rāwatahi ko roi mata ka tangi te ao, ka tangi te pō. I pō rawa te aroha. Ki ngā moitoi, ki ngā mōtoi, kua riro atu nei. Te mōtoi o te rua hiki hiki. Te mōtoi o moki. Arā ko tō tātou kuia, Āti Sisi Wanhala tērā. Kua mauria mai, nāia nei mātou e mauria mai tōna wairua ki runga i a koutou mate. Ka tangi hia, ka mihi hia kia rātou. Ka hai hai te manawa. E te mamai, e te tifa tifa, nā te hinga o tātou mate. Hei konei mātou e tangi hia, e poropotua ki nei, ki ngā mate hukua o te wā. Ko te pō kia koutou nā mate. Kia tātou te mataora, aputa ki te whai au, te ao mārama, te ao tūroa e tū nei. Ko he moki te rangi, nāna ko ira tāhu, ko raka te huru manu, ko tahu muri, ko raka wahakura. A ka moe a raka wahakura i a ira kehu. Nā ira kehu, ko maru haua, ko kuri, ko raka i te kura, ko pūraho, ko te āpai, ko te rua hiki hiki e tau nei. E noho ana mātou i te tapu wai o tūteraki whānua. Ko te hamo te toki tapu. Ia raka raka tia i tarau wawo auraki. Ko te pātako a raka i hau tū ki runga. Ko te kete i ka ki tai. Ka arere taku manu. Ia kaitore te whenua. Ka whai atu te wai hora. Ki te puna wai o te hurutini. Whakahuti atu rā ki te wai makariri. Tai atu ki te tihi. O ka tiritiri o te moana. Ka takahia te pai maunga rā ki te aratāwhi tōko nōti rau reka tērā. Haere tonu atu rā ki te puna wai o te rakāia, tai atu ki te puna wai o te hakatere. A ka whai mai te wai āriki ki te tai o mahanui. Te moana e pō tere tere ai te wakaurua. Ka tihoka nā paupau a te raki hauia ki te pūwaha o te rakāia. Heke heke mai e tuna o runga i te rangi. Ki muri wai o whata. Te hāpua āriki e whāngai hea te iwi nei. Nā te rua hiki hiki, i tapa tapa tēnei whenua. Ka puta mai te taunaha, ko taku kāika, ko rāriki. Kia koe e te koro mātua. Nōku te honore, nō mātou te honore. Te mauria mai tō tātou puti puti. Arā ko Megan tērā, i roto i tēnei whare. I runga i te tika, me te pono, me te haumaru. Anei tō mātou āriro. Kia whiua nā kupu o te mana whenua. Anei tō mātou pūkenga. Ka mahi a te mahi o mātou te mana whenua. Anei tō mātou māngai o Waihora moana. O te rohe o Waikirikiri. Nō reira, ko tāku ki a koutou katoa nā kai kaunihera. Me ātau mā taki o nā mahi. Me whakarongo pīkare ki o nā kupu. O nā kupu, te kupu o te mana whenua o ngai te rua hiki ki taumutu. A ka tira huri no, kia koutou nā kai kauni hera e pōwhiri mai nei a mātou i roto i tēnei whare. Tēnei kaupapa whakahira. Nō reira, e te koro mātua, e tika ana tō kōrero. E kaupapa nui tēnei. Ko te mea nui, ko te aroha, e mohi o ke koe i tērā. Nō reira, ka hara mai mātou ngai te rua hiki i runga i te aroha. Hei mahi, kotahi tātou ki tua. Nō reira, tēnā koe e te koro mātua. Rere tonu ana te mihi kia koe. Kei taku hoa haere, kia koe mātua Malcolm. I tērā wiki ka hara mai ki te tautoko o tō mātou kaupapa. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi. A kia koe, te maruata. Anei te mana whenua, ko tō haupapa, me āwhina i āia. I roto i tēnei whare, kei wainganui i koutou hoa. Koera tō haupapa. Kia tautoko te mana whenua, te reo o te mana whenua, me te reo o te tangata whenua. Koutou rā, nā kaukauni hera. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou. Ka waiho tēnei kōrero kia koutou. Hei whakaro i ngā mahi ki tua. Ka hāhā te tuna ki te roto. Ka hāhā te reo ki te kāinga. Ka hāhā te tangata ki te whenua. Uri no, tēnā koutou. A tēnā koutou. A kia ora mai tātou katoa. Tātou. Aka kina te kōrero o mate aha tira mōreru. Ānā te kupu hei whakakotahi ai tātou ki a tātou. Te kiri mā, te kiri waitutu. Te kiri mā, te kiri waitutu. Po kai anei te tiriti o Waitangi. He ture atua ki te nākau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, a kia ora mai tātou.
He kurani, he kurara, he kurara, he kurara, tēnā hiki, nei rā tau te kawe, nei kaua, kia poto, te mā hiki,
You've come that way.
yeah. There you go.
Kia ora koutou. So today marks a really significant milestone in the relationship between Selwyn District Council and Taumutu Runanga, and I'm proud to be part of that. But equally, I'm very proud to represent our hapu, Te Rua Heke, and I want to personally say thank you very much, whānau, for coming today to acknowledge this occasion, but also personally to support me. So thank you very much. My commitment to my hapu and also to council moving forward is that I will apply the knowledge of my hapu and also the skills that I've acquired through their support for the decisions that are about to be made into the future for our people, our community and our takiwā. That's a commitment that I make to all of you, and I'll also just look forward to moving forward with you all on this journey. You've been very welcoming with me so far, and I'm committed to making good decisions with you for us and our community. So, kia ora koutou.
E holo rei, e garo rika, ki te Tau mai rā te mauri o te pō, ko te mauri o te ao. Ko te mauri a rangi pō tiki, ko te mauri a papapaka horanuku. Ko te mauri a i o te ao tapu e. Tau mai rā te mauri o tū te whakapiki, tū te whakaeke. Tū te ihi, tū te wehi, tū te mana, tū te mauri, tū te pō, tū te ao. Kia tū tangata e. Ka tauha, whakatauha, kia tīna, whakatīna. Hau ye, hui e, tā ki e. Yeah.
Welcome.
She's all yours now.
Fantastic. Kia ora koutou, everyone. We thank you so much for that moment. This afternoon tea and some kai through in the room next door, and Catherine will also be taking some photos that we have set up. So if we grab you for those, please come willingly. Otherwise, enjoy the kai and a cup of tea. back to the meeting. Thank you for the hosting role that we all just played. It was lovely to welcome Megan and the whānau here from Taumotu. The rest of the agenda today has my report, including some data shared from Infometrics. We've got a speed management plan for consultation, and that's the end of the public agenda. So my report is on page 25 of the agenda. There's an overview there of just some of the events that I've been part of and sharing some information about things happening in the community. It's great to go and support Canterbury University recently and talk to the MBA class about governance. Culture Fest was an amazing and really well attended event at Lincoln Event Centre last month, and I want to say thank you to the staff that were trying some new things and having both an indoor and outdoor event and showcasing the best food and dancing entertainment from across the world here in Selwyn was really cool. As far as the dates in the diary, you can see some of the meetings that have been had. It was good to meet with Inspector Peter Cooper and James Cagle. We have talked with them about coming to council as well to give full briefings to councillors about matters that pertaining to police and to Waka Kotahi. And the last event in September was part of opening placemakers in Rolleston, opening up. I want to say thank you to the councillors who attended things on my behalf, which are noted under 3 there as well. We've also got the Selwyn government priorities. This was work that we did earlier in the year. I've now met with each National and Labour candidates, and we've got invites for the others about what we would like to see as issues dealt with here in Selwyn: 24/7 primary care, provision of improved access to mental health services, and particular focus on young people in rural communities. The second one is 200 publicly owned homes across the district. Kāinga Ora currently has just over 30 homes, with the population now nearly 85,000. That's not sufficient to meet the demand of our district, and so working with them around growing the number of homes provided. The third one is around funding and fixing our roads and more frequent public transport, including between our townships. And so there's new routes as well as the existing routes, and particular focus on mass rapid transport between Christchurch and Rolleston, enabling the other public transport to Lincoln to a quick service to the city, and importantly for those that live in the city to come and work here in Rolleston and in Selwyn. The fourth one is co-investment in flooding. We've, as the council's given a lot into this space and worked with ECAN on trying to resolve issues as well. The co-investment required at a government scale is partnering with Environment Canterbury for the Canterbury projects. And so the conversation sits with how do we bring that funding here? And the last is committing to intergenerational investment to restore Te Wahora, Lake Ellesmere, to its former state. And that has been ongoing work that Taumotu has championed, that the Te Wahora Co-Governance Group with DOC and ECAN, this Christchurch City and ourselves are working on. And today the bus trip talking about our own land drainage systems and the responsibility of individual property owners to be a part of changing the health of the lake, and particularly with property purchase and property transformation to put in wetlands to treat water before it enters the lake, being a key part of that change, requires a lot of money and needs government co-investment there too. And the reason for the government needing to step back in is because when they took the lake away and the water quality was in state A, and when the bed of the lake was given back to Ngāi Tahu, the water quality, because of what they had allowed to happen, was in category Z and had dropped well away from what we would expect. So on the return of the lake bed, we're expecting the government to be involved in the return of the water quality of the lake as a part of what they've handed back to Ngāi Tahu. So those are the government priorities, which continue to talk with prospective MPs about. Happy to answer any questions on things that are in my report. Otherwise I'll move it, and if someone wants to second it. Malcolm, thank you. Are there any questions that people have got or comments I'd like to make? All those in favour that you receive my report, and there's two things, isn't there? So you receive my report, and we've got the priorities that I've mentioned, say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Chief Executive's report, including the Selwyn Economic Overview and the Infometrics slide deck. Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor Sam. I'll take my report as having been read, but I will focus on a couple of areas. Firstly, the public forum item that was raised at last council around a young adult non-fiction book. Thank you to Denise and Nikki for providing the information. So just to give councillors comfort that Selwyn Library's collections are managed in line with the collection development guidelines utilised in New Zealand. And those guidelines are there to support librarians to have libraries which are inclusive and to provide communities with, access to a wide range of topics and viewpoints, including those that perhaps may at times be somewhat unorthodox or unpopular. So I'm very happy, having been guided by the team, that we are following the appropriate guidelines. The book is contained within the appropriate section within the library, and that there is an opportunity for parents or caregivers to supervise items that children can borrow or young adults can borrow from that area. So with regards to that information, and for your knowledge, we just checked with a couple of other libraries within Canterbury, and you can see that other libraries also hold this book on their collection. So as a result of that, Selwyn District Council will retain a copy of the book. With regards to the economic development, so I was delighted to host Brad Olson and Nick from Infometrics, and they met with the senior leadership team and the exec team, and provided a presentation, of which I've included as an appendices to my report. There's some really nice good news stories there for Selwyn with regards to, you can see bullet point number 5, Selwyn's economy has seen the strongest growth of all 66 local council areas relative to pre-pandemic levels. So that's pretty impressive. And identifying that there is obviously confidence in the Selwyn district in terms of spending activity as well. And, that's despite the fact that inflation remains high. And you will see within the appendices that there is a link to an article that has been published recently by Infometrics with regards to where the next city may be within New Zealand. And it is clearly outlined there, and it is no surprise, I think, to you councillors, that the Selwyn and the Rolleston area is featured really quite strongly in that. So Brad is going to be the MC for a hui that we're holding for Selwyn business leaders. It's a forum. It is our first step in the journey to developing a strategic economic plan, which is really important for Selwyn Council to have to inform the future, to inform the diversification of industry that we have. And so we've sent out 90 invites. And actually, at the time of writing, we had 28. We're now up to 50 responses and 50 attendees from a very broad range and sector of big business. Included in that is Lincoln University. We have representation coming from health, from the aged care sector, property developers, and large-scale business who either currently provide service here or those who may be interested in providing service. So we're really excited as to what the first step in our journey will hold come the 7th of November. With regards to the standing orders, this is a reflection of a conversation at a recent governance meeting, or governance training, I should say, where it was noted that there has been a change to the Local Government Legislation Act. Emergency provisions were provided to ensure meetings, members can join meetings virtually and be counted as a quorum. There is an intent to build that into legislation as a permanent come October 2024. And so the advice that I'm providing is that we will wait until October 2024 until we formally change our standing orders. However, what we will do is, as part of the current standing orders, we will put some note and advice that members attending via virtually can be included in the quorum. And then I've just given you an update with regards to the Malvern Community Board. So just using a little bit of a countdown that gives an indication of where we're tracking in the process. And as you can see, nominations close for the electoral rolls on Thursday, the 19th of October.
Thank you for that. Are there any comments or questions for Sharon on her report? Mover and seconder that we received the report and received the advice on the decision made to retain the book. Thank you, Deborah. Seconded Shane. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone? Sorry, Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Sharon. I just wanted to ask if it's possible to ask that here. How many recipients have you received for the Malvern Ward nominations?
I apologise, I can't tell you that off the top of my head. I'll have to give you feedback.
I think it was reported in the paper today that there'd been one received so far. Yeah. Sorry, so all those in favour of those two receiving the two A and B, please say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. We now move to the Speed Management Plan 2023 to 2034 and invite Mike and Gareth and team to come forward and present the report.
Good afternoon, councillors. So in the agenda, there is the covering report, speed management plan, and the speed management consultation document. Hopefully we can approve these as being read. Since the early disclosure of the draft speed management plan and the consultation document, we've only had to councillors, we've only had one issue raised where we neglected to put up one of the schools in our table for them. This has been rectified. These edits aren't in the documents that are attached to the agenda. We've also made some other minor edits which don't change the philosophy or direction of the plans. They're typically minor edits adhering to the readability and understanding of the document. I requested the council view the report and approve the speed management plan and consultation document to proceed to consultation. At conclusion of consultation, the report will be or an updated report and plan will be brought back to council to be reviewed prior to sending to Waka Kotahi for certification. I'm happy to receive any questions in relation to the documentation that's included in the agenda.
Great, thanks Mike for presenting that. I'm wondering, can you just talk us through a little bit, the conversation here is around safety and speed is a key contributor to death and injury on our roads. Can you talk to the reasoning behind the decisions that sit in here, just in this meeting that's captured within the conversation? Why are we going down this route, and what's behind the suggestion of the changes in speed limits?
So the primary driving force behind the speed management plan and the reviews of speed limits across the country is a safety driven focus. There's been a large amount of research conducted both nationally and internationally, which highlights that while speed is not necessarily the cause of a lot of accidents, it significantly impacts the survivability of occupants or people involved in a crash. Outlined in the plan, statistics highlighting in an urban environment that a vehicle versus a active user, such as a pedestrian or cyclist, if struck at a speed of 50 kilometres an hour, has a
60%.
no, I think it's
20%.
20% survival rate, whereas struck at 30 kilometres an hour have a 90% survival rate. There are also on our rural roads a head-on collision at 80 kilometres an hour has a 80% survival rate, as opposed to anything at higher at 100.
What else? 90%.
Yeah, so it's all about survivability and impact speeds, reducing the impact speed at a particular crash.
Okay, thank you for that. Deborah.
Thanks for the report. I have actually spoken to Murray England because reading through this, I didn't have access to the maps, and I was sort of trying to work out with regards to Ellesmere Junction Road being a really long road, both rural and through a township, what portion, when you mention about a safe speed and a non-safe speed, that it actually occurred to or referenced. He did explain that a link will be available for people to understand, but I do have another one around Goulds Road, and current speed limit in Goulds Road is 80. The proposed is going to come down to 50, yet the safety of the road is safe and appropriate speed is 80. So I just wondered, why is a road certified as 80 at safety is suddenly going down to 50? Or is that just, have I just picked up a mistake? Sorry.
So in the map viewer, which is the link that was released previously to councillors and will be made available to public on consultation, you'll be able to actually zoom in on the particular roads and see what portion of those roads the speed changes concerned. The portion of Goulds Road that is reduced to 50 kilometres an hour is the part in an urban environment, which is currently posted at 80, and therefore the safe and appropriate speed is still sitting at 80 because it hasn't been adjusted for our urban expansion.
Okay.
It also goes into an intersection, which is in that immediate vicinity. I don't currently have the map viewer up, so I can't accurately indicate where that is, but I know, having gone through the plan, it's in our urban expansion area.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. It's just that in previous, I'm used to having an idea of where these are within the maps. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for that, Deborah. And just before we move to Shane, I just note the presence of Mr. and Mrs. Davey in the back of the chamber. Paul was the CE here at council when I first became a councillor back in 2010, and I'd done some years both before and after that. So Paul, welcome back into the building.
Thank you very much, Your Honour. I'm sorry, Your Worship. Could I just bring greetings from the North Island for your election to the role of Local Government New Zealand President. Congratulations, and you've obviously had a very good apprenticeship. Nice to be here.
Kia ora.
But thank you.
Kia ora.
Shane.
Tēnā koe, Sam. Tēnā rā tātou. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for your report. I think it's the driving force behind this consultation process is safety. And as you've mentioned before, there's consistency with the national plan in Waka Kotahi. And also, to some extent, we drove over some roads this morning as we did our Ellesmere tour and through Southbridge and Goulds Road. and wanted to pass on thanks for the many people that use Gord's Road with the widening of it and saw where the 50 area is currently at the moment. And further along where some of the flushing is happening between Irwell and the Hall and further along there, the big stretches of it where it's actually happening. So will a decrease in road speed also protect some of the road and reduce the cost of repairing the road? Because number one on any long-term plan is always funding into increased funding into protection and maintenance of roads. Secondly, it occurred to me this morning, and also Councillor Glidden pointed out on page 130 in the Leaston plan, the Leaston bypass on Station Street, which is a heavy traffic bypass, is proposed to go down to a 30. The reason behind that is unclear at this point, but I would say there's nothing that gets more engagement than either a speed reduction or taking something away. So prepared to take it through to the consultation process. But yeah, I'm interested in your points around why the heavy traffic bypass for a start would be 30, and some of the longer stretches of roads reducing productivity, and where the balance lies in between safety and that productivity, especially from a heavy traffic perspective.
I could probably take the bypass shape. The bypass is still in an urban area. The reason it's a bypass is because it's a heavy goods bypass and it gets that traffic out of the high street. But it's still in an urban area and there's still a lot of pedestrian activity in that area as well. So that'll be why it's 30. But it won't affect the bypass as such. It'll still be a bypass for heavy traffic. You want to take maintenance?
So you're talking about, so you were talking about the speeds affecting flushing, whether it drives it up or up. It's contentious, possibly yes, but the biggest cause of flushing is mainly drainage. So it's water under the road that causes the, we'll call it venting, which rises the bitumen to the top. So it's more of a technical than a speed issue. It doesn't help because you get that manipulation of the road. The higher volume, higher speed of the traffic, you'll still get flex. So you. Yes and no, it's a suck it and see on that. There's no real evidence to show that the speed will decrease.
I guess it was a question in support of the consultation process and whether a reduction will ultimately reduce the cost of maintenance on roads. Is that something that's taken into consideration?
When the speed management plan and everything were put together, that wasn't the main driver behind it, to be fair. So we've not really looked at whether maintenance costs will be driven down. I'd like to say there would be, because you've got slower speeds, you've got less friction, you've got less stress on the roads at intersections, bends, corners, everything else. So we've got that option to look at. I guess we'd have to do a bit more digging on that. But in relativity, the whole speed management plan is mainly a driver to promote safety across the network. So.
Just lastly, thanks very much. I think that through High Street and Leaston there, it's far too high speed anyway, and we've got a number of seniors and children walking across here, so I'm sure that's been welcomed through there. Thank you very much for your money.
Shane, Nicole, you just clicked off.
I can go. This is great to see. Finally, that we're getting these lower speed limits. As Bob can testify as well, we him and I have tried this back in 2019 with staff, and we did have 40 k's per hour outside our schools permit. Oh, and but we couldn't do that. Waka Kotahi said we needed to have bigger areas that we're reducing the speed limits down. So that set us back, and then through that consultation we had West Rolleston School supporting having the lower speed limits, and they have been repeatedly coming to us to get lower speed limits. And now we're 2023 and we are finally going out for consultation on these lower speed limits around our schools. So for me this is a great day, and I think Bob can testify that as well, the amount of work that has been done. And also at that time, Waka Kotahi actually wanted bigger areas to be done. if we were wanting to do lower speed limits. And it's an interesting situation that looks like we can still do smaller areas, which we couldn't do last time. So I don't know what's changed. But for me, I would rather see that we try and go to 40s in our urban areas. We talked about, as I said at the beginning, there was 20% survival being hit by a car going 50 kilometres an hour. I think it's actually a lower survival rate if you're a child, and we need to keep that front of mind. And our urban areas, even though apparently the mean speed that's been recorded is 40 kilometres an hour, there are still people doing much higher than that, and it is a risk. And if we really want to be looking and getting kids walking to school, biking to school, scootering to school, which they should be able to do safely, we need to have those lower speed limits so parents are able to think that their child is safe to get to and from school without having the issues of the drop-offs right outside the school, which we are seeing at all of our schools, which then creates many other problems. So thank you for this. I had a couple of questions. So I'd mentioned directly to you guys before we had the council meeting, but was just around Rolleston School has had 30 Ks for a little while, extended out from Tennyson Street when we did the last round, and haven't had any treatment to actually make it, so it's not, doesn't appear to be that many that are adhering to that 30 Ks speed limit. And it also had the question around the frontage on the State Highway 1 with Taitapu School and the situation with that. So obviously State Highway is Waka Kotahi's realm, not ours.
Thanks, Nicole. Was there any answers you'd like to give to or comments on what Nicole's raised?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to reiterate your Rolleston School comment with the 30 kilometres an hour and the low compliance of road users around that. As indicated, we have sought funding through Waka Kotahi to install infrastructure across all our schools. But as you rightly highlight, that is the primary reason we haven't gone for wide urban reductions, because we're not in a facility to put in infrastructure and enforcement from New Zealand Police to help get driver compliance with it. So yes, so effectively that is why we're rolling out a staged speed management plan, so that we can hopefully get driver compliance with the reductions that we're doing.
Thank you. Lydia.
Thanks, guys, for your comments at the start around the amendments, and I appreciate those going into the consultation document. So I'm happy to approve this to go to consultation with the amendments. My questions were, how much of the feedback will you take into consideration for the final plan from consultation? And I guess this is going to generate quite a lot of community interest. Sorry. Okay. And I noticed that the close date is the 10th of November. Do you have an anticipation of the public release date for this document? I'm sorry if I missed it in there, but yeah, I didn't see what date you'd be releasing.
So for the public consultation document to be released, we're hoping for tomorrow so we can avoid Friday the 13th. But
thank you.
But we're anticipating this week. We'd like to go out for consultation. In relation to the level of feedback in consideration that's given, we'll consider all feedback that comes in. We just need to be mindful that if any of it is implemented, it's implemented in a consistent network nature. We can't have ad hoc streets at different speed limits across the network.
Yep.
Otherwise, it creates confusion amongst drivers. We also need to be able to, as indicated earlier, facilitate the reductions in a common sense manner.
Understandable. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie.
Why is my name keeps
Yeah,
jumping
mine
off
kept
this?
dropping off as well. I'm not quite
Right.
sure what's going on today. Yeah. Kia ora, guys. Thank you very much for coming. I guess, so one comment, just following on from what Nicole was saying, I find it a wee bit sad in a way that the main reason for not having slow neighbourhoods is because we're worried about enforcement rather than because we're worried about people being safe. It feels a bit about face in a way. I can kind of see the point, but on the other hand, anyway, it feels like a don't try, don't fail. But the question I was going to ask, a couple of questions were around consultation part. One is the document mentions some kind of stakeholder meeting. Is that like a community meeting? And if so, is there going to be more than one, given the size of the district? Second question was if, you know, to give people a chance to sort of, if there are potentially more than one meeting, is it worth doing a 6-week consultation rather than 4 weeks? If looking at the face there. The last question though is the document also mentions an interactive map that people can put comments on. Is that, I'm presuming that's a bit like the one that Waka Kotahi had for around the flyover a year or so ago. Just wondering what the options are for people who won't be able to access that map due to poor internet or lack of computers. Like, are there going to be printed options in the libraries? I know there's a form that they can submit with, but if they can't see the map, then it's a, you know, it would be good if there's a printed option for people to be able to see the maps that are proposed to go in, not just the ones around the schools, the wider district roads as well. Kia ora.
Thank you. So, in response to the stakeholder meeting was a stakeholder meeting that was held and has been held primarily with major road safety stakeholders and emergency services. The consultation document and the length of consultation, we're keen to keep it at 4 weeks, primarily due to needing to get it to Waka Kotahi prior to their Christmas close-off so that we can hopefully get it certified and we can start implementing the speeds around schools as soon as possible. If we extend it to 6 weeks, by the time we come back to council for approval and then get it to Waka Kotahi, the chances are it probably won't be certified this year. The map viewer is run along the lines of is the same base platform as our map viewer that we use in council. So it's a zoomable, movable web viewer that they can zoom in and see exactly where. It's marked up with signs, colours, for hopefully those that can access it. Easy understanding the changes that are made. As far as printed maps go, I'd have to seek some advice as to how we can go about printing a whole of district, whole of network map that can be included in those documents. It's pretty big. It's a whole of district map. I'm not sure how we would go about having that printed in sections or parts across the whole network to include in the document. I'd have to seek some guidance from comms as to whether that's actually possible.
I was going to say, I think in terms of the printed maps, if people go to the libraries, they can access the computers and the facilities there to then be guided to those online maps.
Can we include that as part of our comms just to make sure that people realise they can do that? Thank you. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Sorry, councillors, with the microphones dropping your names around, I am not memorising when they were first pushed, and so if the microphones dropped you, I'm not sure whether that was the microphone or you deciding to take yourself off and put it back on. So if I've got the order wrong today from the order you were going, just my apologies for that. Elizabeth, you were next.
Yeah, thank you. So on page 146, so you've got what Deborah mentioned earlier, and also the Lincoln Tautapu Road. So it's 80 and then 50 is what you're recommending to drop it down to, but it's actually at 80 for the, safe and appropriate speed as opposed to the proposed speed. When you are dropping that to 50 instead of 80, is that because you're considering a partial part of the road that there's only going to be part of it that's 50, like maybe coming out of a stronger residential area, and then as it goes to the more rural part where there's not so many properties, will it then go back up to 80? I'm just trying to gauge why we're looking at that, because they're quite long stretches of road, and I think we will find that there will definitely not be people complying to a 50 for a very long stretch of road when there's no, it's a bit like speed cones. If you've got cones on a highway, nobody goes 30 if it's for a kilometre.
Thank you. You're quite right. They're short sections of road. The reason that they're tableised and listed as such in the speed management plan is because that's what we have to do for Waka Kotahi. They need to see a tableised list of roads and the reductions that we're planning. So the intention is that those tables are viewed alongside the map viewer. A lot of those areas where we've lowered the speed to lower than the safe and appropriate speed are the urban areas, or there may be an intersection. For example, Ellesmere Road is only a 200-metre section at an intersection. It's not the whole of Ellesmere Road that's getting lowered. It's just that short portion. So yeah, and one of the edits that we have done with the document since a meeting is we have included comments as to why we've kept the speed lower than the safe and appropriate speed. So those comments are included in the updated documentation.
I guess the reason that we've got visual with it and put it in the map format is that it's so easy to be able to see what we're actually doing. Some of these roads are 15, 16 k's long, and if we're just shortening like Ellesmere, like it's a 200-metre section, to write that down, it would be difficult for people to understand which bit, because they won't know about road position points and things. So yeah, we've done like I said, the visual thing needs to be read against this.
Phil.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's with quite a bit of pride that I look at this document and think that today we've had another a really great thing that's happened within our council. I mean, I remind myself that the 4 pillars of safety on our roads are the cars, speed, roads, and the drivers. 2 of those, roads and speed, fall under council or Waka Kotahi's space. So the fact that we're taking this responsibility, I just got some stats here, which I thought council might be interested in. This is back from 2016, but the sentiment's the same. In 2016, one person dies in Canada every 9 days. Actually, there's this information in the where I got it from. Yep. Every day we have about 17 crashes on our roads, and every day 5 people are injured and 1 person is hospitalised. But the big one is the social cost to Canterbury is $1.3 million every day relating to road trauma. We look and say, well, yeah, okay, well, the police doing what the police do, surely that's a police issue. Well, the police are doing it, because in 2016 there was probably 100,000 infringement notices written in Canterbury alone. Over half of those were for speed. So, we look and say, well, I mean, they're doing their side. They've got special divisions targeting speed, and our side is this stuff here. And as the person who's been out there on the roads scraping up the people, there is nothing that we can do that will protect our people on our roads better than reducing the speed. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil. Shane.
Thank you very much, Phil. Very sobering words. The comment around stakeholder engagement. So I presume that was has that in any way, sorry, the feedback from that stakeholder, has that in any way shaped the document that we have before us today? Because I know that the transport guys had some concerns around, as I mentioned before, productivity or the lack thereof due to reductions of speed. So has that been taken into account? Maybe not in what we see today, but will it be taken into account as part of the consultation formation over the period of time?
Yep, yeah. So they brought that up at the stakeholders meeting. And it's been noted, and it's been noted in the speed management plan itself. It will be considered with all other consultation. However, the initial phase of the rollout of the speed management plan shouldn't directly impact freight routes significantly. Given heavy freight is governed to 90 kilometres an hour, a reduction to 80 on some rural roads shouldn't impact on freight time significantly over the short kilometre changes that we're intending to make.
Thank you.
We did actually speak to the Freight Association when we were there, but we had a bit of an after session with them as well.
Yes.
They went away comfortable enough with what we were talking about, and obviously their belief or their understanding that the main driver behind this that we've been given, and this our main focus is the safety. Understanding cost is always an issue. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you for bringing this report to us. Just one thing from me, or two things. On page 11 of the speed management plan, currently got a photo, which I know the Springs ward councillors will love because of Lincoln. But it's of an old Lincoln with a takeaway shop that council has previously purchased and demolished and is now a little art reserve. So if we could update that photo with an equally beautiful, well, with a slightly more beautiful Lincoln photo would be great. And as far as consultation with our community goes, like some people will care about this and so look at it, and others won't notice anything has happened until they see a speed sign on the road, and particularly on the more rural spaces. I think we're going to get two sets of feedback here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the feedback from our community. But around schools, I think we'll generally hear some positive noise, and around our open roads, there may be some different feedback. So is there the opportunity for us to have the consultation awareness placed on those roads so that when people are using them over the next 4 weeks, they can actually consider what travelling, and instead of travelling at 100, as many of them will be now, they can consider what the change to 80 would look like for them, and then be aware of this. So that may replace some of the current safe speed signs that are up there, but just alerting people that when they're using it, this is the change that will affect them, rather than just hoping they read about it in a newspaper. I think would help us reach more people and then be able to hear some of the feedback. And I'm thinking particularly around Telegraph Road, Wards Road, Beeley Road, Old West Coast Road, those ones that kind of sit there and a lot of people use. And while they're in the car, that would just give them the chance to think about providing their feedback to us. If that can be accommodated, I think that would help our communications to the community.
Yeah, Sam, I might just jump in there quickly. I think if there's some specific roads, then there may be. There's obviously a cost there, and we also don't want to confuse the actual speed limit to what the proposed one is, but we can look at that, but it would be very limited in terms of rolling that out, I think.
Yeah, and we shouldn't put an 80 with a red circle around it on a 100k road until that's, so we do need to think about what the wording is, but I think that would make a difference if we can look to accommodate that on a couple of those specific roads, probably Telegraph Road and Old West Coast Road, if I was to pick two out of the ones that seem in that plan of where feedback could be helpful, but open to hear from the other councillors around if they think that would be helpful or not as well. Sorry, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, as far as roadside billboards go, a lot of our billboard locations aren't necessarily on the roads that are currently being recommended for reductions. So we'd have to assess their locations as with an overlay of where those roads may be. And it's time sensitive. As I say, we're hoping to get out the consultation either tomorrow or Friday, and the time to get the billboards in place may not happen within the 4 weeks that we've currently got allocated. There is the potential to hire a mobile.
We could look at VMS boards, but to be truthful, what wording would you put on it that doesn't say this is going to be 80, and as soon as there's an 80 there, people might have that recognition that we're already trying to reduce that speed, and they'll have that.
Just that we're consulting on the speed of this road is all it needs to say, and to raise the awareness for them to engage in it. That's the request. I don't think we should put up an 80k, an 80 at all in front of people.
Understand. No, I guess the only other concern on that would be it could be a distraction to people as well. But look, we have billboards all over. We usually place them in locations where they're safe. But we'll
look into it.
We'll take that on board and we'll have a look at that.
Cool, thanks. And just the timing on this, if we get this done this side of Christmas, do we have the capacity for some of the schools to open in 2024 with 30Ks outside their school? Are our contractors aware of these changes? Do we have the ability to do this work over Christmas?
So what we're looking at doing is the initial couple of weeks of feedback that we get back from the consultation pack, we can gauge whether there's going to be support or not. Looking on whether, if the support's there, and we're looking at what we had in 2016, I think when the last one went out to consultation. If there's a support there, we're already looking at trying to get that procured now so we can get a number of schools. I won't say we'll get them all done. Don't forget how many there is, but we will try and get some done so that when the kids go back after the school holidays, they should be revisiting school at a 30 safe zone sort of speed. So you'll never know until the consultation comes back. I mean, we don't know what steps we're going to do until then. But yes, you are right. They're already aware, and I'm looking at different methods, whether we can use some of the existing signage and just changing the faces on them. So, yeah.
Cool, thanks. Elizabeth.
I just wanted to know the process with our Google Maps, because I rely on that to tell me how long my drive time is. And will that be updated? Is that part of the process? So it's updated at the same time in terms of our, all happening smooth succession?
Unfortunately, currently, Google Updates is not in our sort of realms of availability. We noticed the same issues, including the speeds that are identified on the Google navigation screens in some of the cars if they're not updated. We don't have the facility to enforce Google to update their databases.
One thing we would look forward to is if NZTA and the National Speed Limit Register could actually be linked into Google or into TomTom or into any other device, the Garmin devices, so that the specifics are there. Because our speed limits are set at a road position which is to the meter. So that any variations, like you see in some of the rural areas where you go into a speed limit and your E-road's still saying it's an 80 and you're actually in a 60, all that sort of thing, that should get rid of all of that if NZTA are doing their job in the background, which is obviously out of our hands.
Cool, thank you. So I need a mover and a seconder that we receive and endorse the report, consultation of full speed management plan, and agrees to it be released for consultation. Nicole and Malcolm. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. Now move to resolution to exclude the public from the rest of the meeting. Thanks, Nicole. Seconded. Deborah, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. And we'll just take a 3-minute break while we stop the live feed and say thank you to our guests.